In part 2 of Fun with Fractions, we're going to focus on fractions and whole numbers. So just like before, I'm going to give you 4 problems. I'm going to give you 90 seconds to complete those 4 problems. Don't worry, I've got the timer built into the presentation, so you don't need to pause. But if you're not ready, pause here and then play when you're ready. All right, let's go. All right, that's your time. So here are the correct answers. Take a moment to look at your answers, look at my answers, make sure that your answers match my answers. If they do match, then you're done. You don't need to watch the rest of this video. If they don't match, then you do need to watch the rest of this video. The key to working with fractions and whole numbers is to recognize that a whole number is a fraction. Anytime I give you a whole number, you can think of it as a whole number over 1. And then from there, proceed based on the rules of adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. In the case of the first example, 2/5 plus 4 over 1, common denominator would be 5, so the first fraction does not need to be adjusted. The second fraction, multiply top and bottom by 5, gives me 20 over 5. Now I can add the 2 fractions because they have a common denominator. 2 over 5 plus 20 over 5 is 22 over 5. You're not done until you're done. Check to see if that can be simplified. 22 over 5. 5 is a prime number, so the only thing that can it reduce by is 5. Does 5 go into 22? No, it doesn't, so 22 over 5 is the final answer. Moving on to question B, common denominator is going to be 3, so multiply the 7 over 1 by 3 over 3, and you're going to get 21 over 3. 21 minus 4 gives me 17. Double check, can 17 over 3 be reduced? No, it cannot. Final answer. On question C, note that we are multiplying, so the common denominator is not needed, so we could just multiply straight across and then see if we could simplify. But, as I mentioned previously, always simplify first, even though it's just as easy in this example to multiply and then simplify versus simplify then multiply. On the whole, simplifying first is typically going to make problems easier, so I suggest just always simplify first. So I can simplify diagonally. The 10 and the 5 can both be reduced by a factor of 5. So the 5 disappears, the 10 becomes a 2. Nothing else can be reduced, so multiply straight across. 2 times 4 is 8. Now on the bottom, you really have 1 times 1, and you don't need to write the 1 on the bottom, so the final answer would just be 8. And question D, division, keep it, change it, flip it. So 2/5 times 1/3. Look to see if anything can be reduced before we multiply. The 2 cannot be reduced with anything on the bottom. The 1 is already fully reduced, so 2 times 1 is 2 over 15. Final answer. And that's it. That's all of part 2. That's all I wanted to address in this section. I wasn't lying to you when I said in the previous video that part 2 was going to be much shorter. Key takeaways from this lesson are to recognize that when you are adding a fraction plus a whole number, is that the whole number is over 1 and that the common denominator will always be the same as the denominator of the fraction. And when I'm multiplying a whole number times a fraction, although you can still think of it as a whole number over 1 and then multiply straight across. You could also just recognize that the whole number is attached to the numerator. It is not attached to the denominator. So from here, what you should do is complete the assignment covering both parts 1 and part 2. Once you've completed that assignment, then you can watch the video for part 3.